Lovely to see you all. Look, I'll get started tonight because there's a lot to talk about. Just making sure you can all hear me. Okay, the first thing I want to ask you is your child doing the selective school test in 2019? Great. It's great to see lots of people writing down if they are or aren't. Okay, what we'll do tonight is we're going to be examining a few different things. So we'll look at the overview first of all, and we'll get started. Hopefully when we go through it, we'll get a lot out of tonight. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask us. So the first thing we're going to look at is the writing component of the selective school test. Straight after that, we're going to look at the major do's and don'ts and things that you need to do for the selective test in order to get 20 out of 20. The next thing we'll do is how to write a perfect narrative. And then finally, we'll look at the free ebooks. So to get started, let me explain what the test is all about. So first of all, your child will be sitting a test. The test will either be a narrative or it will be a persuasive writing task. So tonight we're going to be looking a lot at narratives, and in 2 weeks' time we'll be doing another webinar, and that will be based on persuasive writing. So we have a lot of parents ask us just a little bit about the text types, which we've already spoken about, the narrative or persuasive. We also have parents asking us about time. How long do they have to do the test? You have 20 minutes, so that's not very long at all. So it's really important that your child is prepared for the test. So we'll go through the do's and don'ts in a moment. The next question we have a lot of people ask us is how long? How long should my child write? It's really important that your child writes the correct structure. So it's really important that they include the structure, and we're going to go through the structure in quite a bit of detail in a moment. And it's important that they write approximately 250 words, but we're saying that we don't want your child to sit there and count every single word. If your child is worried that they don't know what 250 words looks like, get them to write something out, and when they write it out, then get them to have a look, because 250 words could mean 1 page or it could mean 2 pages depending on the child's writing. So we'll look at now the major do's and don'ts. So the first thing is it's important your child is prepared for the exam. So by being prepared, we mean that they plan how they're going to allocate their 20 minutes. So in the planning stage, it's important that they only allocate about 3 minutes. So by planning, they need to plan at paragraph level. So looking at what they're going to write in each paragraph. Don't turn up to the exam and brainstorm. We do this in class, we brainstorm in class, we write down all the different things we can think about the topic, and then they write. Do not do this in an exam, because this is time wasted. Just plan so that you know exactly what you're going to write in each paragraph. The next thing that's important is that they remember to write it out and the time management. So we've got 20 minutes, so it's important to allocate some time at the end to review. By review, check expression, spelling, and grammar. But how do I do that? Easy. Ask yourself, does it make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? So there's 3 important questions that you need to ask yourself when you're doing it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the literacy narrative elements for a writing toolbox. So the first thing I want you to do is, I know your child has already sat the NAPLAN, and I know that they know what a narrative is, and I know they know how to write it. So I won't go into a lot of detail about what a narrative is. What I'll do is I'll go through the plot chart, which is on our next slide, and then we'll have a brief look at the different stages of writing a narrative. At this stage, I hope you can all still hear me. Can I just get a response for yes or no, just because my earphone is playing up a little bit? Fantastic. Just a few more responses. Okay, just also while I'm asking, can everybody still see the screen? Yeah, we've just got a couple that can't quite see the screen. Maybe if you refresh the screen, that might help it. So just refresh your page now. Excellent. Well, we might continue on and we might ask that again. Okay, and just a little reminder, this part is it's not actually recorded. So this is actually live. So we're actually here right now. So I might stop again in a few more minutes just to make sure every now and again that you can still hear and that you can see the screen. So we are actually live. So hopefully we're having no technological issues. Lucky there's no storm out there tonight as well. Okay, looking at the narrative plot chart. Okay, so there's 6 parts to that. So in brief, if we look at the very first part, we look at the characters and the setting. So this is really important when you're writing a narrative. So in this part, we talk about the different types of characters in our story, and we're going to look at them in a bit more detail on our next slide. The next thing we look at is the conflict. So that's where we have the problem in the story. So the problem that arises and the rising action. And then as that takes off, we have the climax. So that's really the turning point in the story. That's the major part. Then as the conflict starts to sort of get solved, it just decreases. And then we have the resolution. So that's how it's resolved. So that's really the conflict being resolved at the end. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at is how the audience or how the author tells the audience about the personality of the character. So it's really important that you make sure the marker gets a good idea in their head. And in order to do that, you really need to paint the picture. So you're aiming for 20 out of 20. You're not aiming for 19 out of 20 or 18 out of 20. You're aiming for 20 out of 20. So it's important that you use words that are describing words to really paint an idea of what the character is like. You know, is the character patient? Are they jealous? You know, what sort of personality do they have? And looking at the type of characters now in a bit more detail, the first character I want to look at is the protagonist. Now, there are many, many, many different types of characters, okay? And when we look at the different types of characters in our story, every story has a protagonist. Now, if you haven't got a pen on you or a pencil or perhaps even a phone, maybe it's a good idea to get that now and get your child to write down this particular word, protagonist, and our next couple of words that we're going to mention, because they're really important technical words that your child can then take to school on Monday and tell their teacher, and that will really impress, because these are words that are not used in the everyday classroom. So what is the protagonist? Well, hang on a sec. All of you out there actually know what a protagonist is. The protagonist is just a really big technical word for the hero of the story. So the protagonist is somebody that does something that results in a hero. So if we think of the show Aladdin, or we think of the story Aladdin, most of you would be aware of Aladdin. Now, Aladdin in the story has to overcome a lot. So in the story, to begin with, he starts out with nothing, and we see him rise with the help of the genie, and at the end, he defeats the Sultan. So through that story, we know Aladdin as the protagonist. He is the hero. So that's our very first word. So remember, there are 3 key words that we're going to be looking at in a moment, and we might even test you on them shortly to see who is paying attention. Okay, the second key word is antagonist. So we've got protagonist and we've got antagonist. Even if we look at the first part of the word antagonist, it sort of looks like the word angry. So that's the person that's the villain in the story, someone that's not very nice. So again, looking at Aladdin, which is what we spoke about earlier on, and most of you would be familiar with Aladdin, and if you're not, that could be a movie for Saturday night watching. In Aladdin, we've got the Sultan, and he is the villain. So he's the horrible person in the story. And it's really good to have a mixture of characters in your story in order to aim for that 20 out of 20. So if you want that 20 out of 20, think about including your protagonist, your antagonist, and our next character we're going to look at is the dynamic character. Now, even the word dynamic, it sort of sounds like dynamite, you know, someone that changes throughout the course of something. So they could change in terms of their commitment, they could change in terms of their values, or they could change as a result of something. So if we look at Beauty and the Beast, now most of you would be aware of Beauty and the Beast, and that's been around for a very long time and recently redone. The Beast, at the beginning of that movie, or in that beginning of that book, in our story, the Beast was a handsome young man, and he has this big party that he throws, and this lady turns up at night, and she's old, she's ugly, and she wants somewhere to stay the night. The Beast automatically turns her away and says, you know, Go. I don't want to have anything to do with you because, he sort of looks at her and he's, doesn't want to be associated with someone like her. Straight away, she turns around and she casts a spell on him. Now, without telling you more of the storyline, and if you're interested in it, you can go out and hire it. Without telling you more, the beast changes from this person in the story that does not accept people for who they are to somebody that becomes very loving and someone that falls in love at the end of the story, and we're going to go back to that in a moment. So before we go any further, there were 3 types of characters that we mentioned. I wonder who can be the very first person to write down those 3 types of characters. Well, let's see. We've got lots of people that are typing at the moment, looking to see who that first person might be. What are the 3 types of characters that we mentioned? I can see someone with the word protagonist written down already. Or I can see someone with the protagonist, and I can see a dynamite. Oh, and we just saw an antagonist. Oh, we've got lots and lots of people out there. Fantastic. It's great to see people that are paying attention as well. So remember, again, writing those 3 down and taking them into the classroom on Monday. That would really help, and that would really impress the teachers. It's also good to see that people can still hear. Just making sure everybody can still see the screen as well. If you can't see the screen, can you let us know now? Fantastic. Continuing on. Okay, if you really want a really good mark when you're doing the test, and we're aiming for 20 out of 20, because let's face it, that's why we're all here on a Friday night instead of going out somewhere. What we need to do is we need to look at the setting and the mood. And by looking at the setting and the mood, we need to paint that picture. We need to make sure that the marker feels like they are actually in the scene. So what I want you to do for a moment now is to close your eyes. I want you to imagine that it's a hot, sunny day and you've just arrived at the beach. You're walking along the hot, sandy, golden sand. You can hear kids laughing in the background. You can hear the waves coming in and out, in and out. You can see children laughing as they build sandcastles. I'm trying to paint the picture, okay? Automatically, I'm describing, I'm painting the picture. So the marker feels like they are actually there. They feel like they're in the scene, okay? Automatically, I feel like I'm at the beach. In fact, I wouldn't mind being there right now. Also, it's important you set the mood. How do you feel at the beach? Are you tired? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you curious? Are you wondering why that little child over there is crying? Are you wondering why that adult is arguing with another adult? So you're really setting the mood. It's important that you paint the picture. Remember that we're here to get 20 out of 20. And that's why we're here tonight. We're here to help you. So it's really important that you paint that picture. And talking about painting the picture, it's important that you set the tone. And it's really easy that when you talk, it's really easy to set the tone. If I'm talking at the moment, you can tell with my voice how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling cheerful or if I'm feeling angry, you can sort of tell with my voice. But when I'm writing, how do you do that? That's something that is really complicated and something that we're here to teach you about. So if I think about setting the tone, an example might be if I was writing and the mother was writing or someone was typing and they're talking about the mum, she might say, tomorrow is Saturday. And then in her next part, the child might respond, yay, that's great. So automatically I know the child is excited, they're happy. So we're setting the tone. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the conflict. Now, there are lots and lots of different types of conflicts, as you can see when we go through these slides, which we will cover in our classes and our online courses. So it's really important that tonight we're just giving you an overview of these conflicts. So what I want to briefly go through with you now is touching on the different types of conflicts. As I do that, I also want to reinforce with you and reiterate that there doesn't have to be one conflict in a story. There can be multiple conflicts in a story. So if we take, for example, a conflict where the person is against their past, and then another conflict where a person is against nature, both these conflicts themselves are intertwined. By intertwined, what I mean is that they are connected. So a person who has a conflict with nature, perhaps they had a struggle earlier on in life. Perhaps they were involved in an earthquake in the story and they lost a loved one. So because they lost a loved one, then the conflict of person versus their past is that they are trying to deal with their past. So again, that is a different type of conflict. So we've got person versus their past, which we saw earlier on, and we've got the external one, which is person versus nature. And both of them are interconnected. Again, how? We could have had an earthquake, you could have lost a loved one, and then they're trying to deal with that. So they're struggling. Maybe they can't go back to that place. Say they went to San Francisco and there was an earthquake. They can't go back there because it brings back negative memories. So again, try and relate it. It's really important when you are writing a story that you are trying to make the reader, the marker, feel like they are part of the story, feel like they understand the story. Okay, the next thing we want to talk about is the theme. Now, I'm going to stop for a moment and just to think about whether or not we all know what the word theme means. What is a theme? It's great to see people already typing what their definition is of what a theme is. Oh, fantastic. I can see some really good definitions already coming up. You can see a couple of people there that are still pondering. And that's really good to ponder because that means that they're thinking about their answer before jumping straight into it. Okay, so responding from what a lot of people have said, a theme is to do with the subject or the theme that the author wants to address. So if we look back at Beauty and the Beast, which is something that we spoke about earlier on, or we look at Aladdin, both of them address the theme of love. And that's a fundamental theme. Fantastic. I love the definition that someone's also given, just going back to a theme is the main subject, and it's going much faster than I can actually read it. As some of you might have kids in my class that know I have had eye surgery. So a theme is the topic of something. Well done. That's a really good one. A theme is the subject or the main idea of a story. That's a fantastic example. Well done. Let's see what other examples we've got coming up. It is a subject again, what it's about. Fantastic, great. It's great to see so many people involved as well and such excellent responses. And even if you are unsure, that's why you're here. And that's why we're here. We're here in partnership with you to help make a difference in your child's education and to help them get 20 out of 20, which is what we all want. So again, the theme, again in Beauty and the Beast, again in Aladdin, we're looking at love and that being our theme. Okay, so the next thing we want to look at is irony. I mean, how ironic is it that we're all here tonight on a Friday night doing this webinar? Okay, so the next few slides look at different types of irony. So we're not going to cover all of them, but our course does cover it in a greater bit of detail. So there's the situational irony, there's the dramatic irony, and there's the verbal irony. And they are all itself quite ironic. Now, this is really important in writing, that you include symbolism. Now, we all know what symbolism is. We all know that we see something out in the open. We know that we put two fingers up and we know it's a peace sign. We know that we see a dove and it symbolizes peace. We know that we see a clock and it symbolizes time. But do we know how to write about it? How do you write about symbolism? What do you do to take the marker to the next level? You know, if you write, I saw a clock, are you going to get 20 out of 20? No. But if you can write about it and you can relate it, then you're more likely to get that better mark. And that's what we're here to teach you. So if we look back at our Beauty and the Beast, which is what we spoke about earlier on, in Beauty and the Beast, there's the symbol of flowers. There's a rose. Okay, there's one rose. And that's written about in the story. And again, if you want to read the story, or if you haven't got so much time and you want to watch the story, you can hire it out and watch it. You will see that there is a rose given to the beast. We're not told about that rose visually when we see the story, but when we read about it, we are told about that story. Have a look. Pick up the book. Find the book. See how the author describes a rose. See how they speak about the rose. The rose in the story, we know it symbolizes love. Okay, we know that. And that is a symbol in itself, and that's something that they speak about. So I'd love to talk much, much more about symbolism, but unfortunately with time we do need to move on. But again, our course does cover it, and it does in a lot more detail. The next thing we want to talk about is foreshadowing. What is foreshadowing? Does anyone know? I'll give you a moment now to stop and think about the term or the word foreshadowing. And again, to write down the word foreshadowing. Great, I can see some really good responses so far happening. There's someone there that's also written down, there's one good response so far. There's 2, 3, 4. Great. Just looking for a few more. Remember, this is a really technical term that your child can take to school along with our other words that we've already used with protagonist and antagonist and dynamic. Start using them. We've got here, it is the main subject. Well done, Diva. That is fantastic. Great. Again, we've got here Hasnam, well done. Suman, we've got some fantastic responses there that we can see. We've got that relate to the future of the story. We've got connection. We've got indication. Again, connection, things that suggest something. Like a sight into the future. Fantastic. That person again with the sight into the future. Ricardo, that is fantastic. And that's exactly what we want to say. Before I go any further, just making sure you can hear us properly and you're able to see the screen as well. Fantastic. Okay, so the foreshadowing is a clue into the future. So it's when someone says something that might hint something towards the future. So say, for example, you're writing a story or in everyday conversation and you're talking about little Johnny having a birthday coming up and they're writing about it and their friend says, I don't like the zoo, then we're foreshadowing into the future because we're going to know that they're not going to maybe want to come to the zoo. Or perhaps in the story, we might have somebody coming up against a snake and somebody might see a snake in the story and might not be overly thrilled about that snake. So then are they going to want to come to your party that's at the reptile zoo? Probably not. So foreshadowing is being able to see towards the future, being able to read the hints that are given. You know, you might see a dollar sign somewhere and it might be a hint of fortune to come. Perhaps Sarika is going to win the lotto. Who knows?
How good is that?
Okay, so our next thing we want to talk about is Writing Club. Now, our courses are online and we have videos. And what we're going to do is we're going to outline in a moment the benefits and we're going to talk about how we go through the test. And Sarika has got some fantastic things that she wants to talk to you about as well. So what I'll do is I'll hand you over to Sarika. Just bear with us for a moment while we pass over the headphones and the microphone and so forth.
Thanks, Diane. That was very informative. I don't know how you covered the whole narrative and structure and all those things. And it was so good to see so many people responding. I'm sure they got something out of it, especially the questions in the beginning. Kids are always confused about that as well. Now, just to give you an overview of even writing just an introduction or talking about the character, that itself can take more than 2 hours or 3 hours. It's there's no end to it. So this live session was just to tell you what your child needs to do to write a narrative. But we do have online courses where you can watch the videos, and if your child does not understand in one go, they can watch it again. Or if you want to be a part of their journey while they're learning, because most of the time parents do ask, I want to help my child, but I really don't know what to do and what is expected. So these videos will tell you what is expected in selective school test. Every video will talk about what markers are looking for. After every video, there is a graded quiz. That quiz will give you some idea how much your child learned. After that, there are some assignments, because nobody can improve their writing skills until they write. So those assignments they submit to us, and we assign a trained teacher who give them a feedback. And if they need, they can send us back, and they'll improve. So again, you can go on our website, which is www.writingclub.com.au. We do have center-based classes as well, and I can see some of our students and parents already online. So we do cover these things in our classes. School holidays are coming. If you need to revise and need some more practice, I feel this is a great way. So when you go on that website, you will see the course. At the moment, the course is active, so it does show the price there, and you can enroll. There are 10 sessions. It will tell you what we cover in each and every session. Any questions, just let us know. We are offering an extra 5% discount to our attendees today. That offer will be sent to you in your email if you're interested in logging on. But we do have limited numbers. People always ask, it's an online course, why do you have limited numbers? The reason is we might have 1,000 students enrolling into this course, but we don't have 1,000 teachers at the moment who can give feedback. So we have limited number of enrollment and spots available, so that we can assign an experienced qualified teacher who understand the format of selective school test and understand what is expected and give feedback based on that. Next, we are planning a lot of webinars. Please do give us some feedback about today's session and how we can improve. We've got another webinar coming up on 28th of September. So we'll cover persuasive text type that time, and we'll go in detail that what is expected in terms of selective school test. So please join us that time. You will be getting links soon to join if you're interested in that. And we do have something special for you, which we have put in a lot of hard work in creating this special ebook. This has 5 writing prompts, which are very similar to the actual selective school test. If your child is preparing for scholarship tests for private schools, very similar. So feel free to download that. I am going to share that file link now. This link will be active for some time. I feel that it should be showing on your screen. Feel free to download and save it in your laptop and give it to your child. So there are instructions. From our past experience, there are visual stimulus for narrative writing in selective school tests. That's where they need to use their higher order thinking skills and whatever Diane just discussed, thinking about the characters, the different types of characters, what they can see, and setting and tone and conflicts, all those things which you've learned today. Any questions? Feel free to write to us or send us in an email, give us a call. There should be a link now, or let me just share this file. I can see some people did not get it. Do you see the link now? It says download file. Just have a look. Just let me know. If you cannot download, please let us know as well. I can see some people have written, how do you download it? Gaurav is saying can't see the link for ebook. Gaurav, can you please confirm now if you can see the link? Raghu? Fantastic. Thanks for the feedback. Somebody's just asked which course. So if you go to www.writingclub.com.au, There are some courses. We've got only 2 active courses at the moment where we're accepting enrollment, and one of them is narrative writing course for selective school test. Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate. I know it's Friday evening. I hope you got a bit more information and insight in the selective school test writing component.
I just want to say a quick thank you as well for everybody that came tonight to join us. I know it's Friday night and it's been a long week at work, but we really appreciate your time that you've given up tonight in your busy schedule to join us. We hope you found it informative, and any questions at all, please do not hesitate to contact us. We've got the email address, you've got the number as well, and we hope to hear from you soon. And we also hope to see you in 2 weeks' time when we do the persuasive writing task. Again, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening and have a fantastic weekend. And don't forget to get your kids to go to school on Monday and tell their teachers those 3 terms that we spoke about earlier on. Thank you.